Hello everyone, Justin with Deep Dive Stocks here for another After Hours Market Dive. Today is September 5th, it's Friday. Let's go ahead and get started. So yesterday we left off, we had some pretty bullish ideations for ES futures. Oops, wrong button. But again, recurring patterns. So if you've been watching the past few videos, kind of the outcome was pretty well choreographed and expected, but let's go ahead and look at it. So right about where we left off, we had, as we noted, that bullish liquidity. LDPS was bullish because it was painting the candles green. LDPM was in a bull stack configuration. And we see right here, around 1 in the morning, we start getting LDPM is now being used as a support for spot, and we are starting to get these bearish candles start to poke through. And again, if you've been following along, this should be a pretty reminiscent pattern, right? So price moves up off of a support. We start maybe looking for some price stagnation, and everything is fine and dandy as long as there's no bearish liquidity that starts poking through, and instead, that is what we start seeing. So about that bearish liquidity continues, and then about, it seems, 2:30, 3 a.m., LDPM L5 fails as a support. So things are now wholly bearish, and then we fall directly through LDPM L6 right down to LDPM L7, and it looks like currently we are in the midst of a tiny bounce off of that LDPM L7 support. And right now, though, it looks like a little price stagnation, but we do get a little bit of peeking out of this bullish liquidity. So perhaps a move to 6,502, this next resistance, LDPM L6, isn't out of the question for this pre-market / after hours or pre-hours coming Monday next week. But for now, this was pretty well choreographed, nothing too exciting happening here. We price stagnated, we hit that support, bearish liquidity came through, we tested that next support at LDPM L6, tested the next support at LDPM L7, and now we're kind of just resolving that and seeing what's happening. So a little bit of a hope for a surge or return of bullish liquidity, taking us to LDPM L6 for the resistance. But overall, it's still kind of bearish overall. GME I wanted to look at because it's been doing some interesting things, kind of just the more I peek at it. So let's take a look at where we left off yesterday, which we said was bearish, but we noted that price was moving towards that LDPM, so it was likely, or at least a reasonable idea, that we check out how things happen while that's occurring, right? So if we just do the fast forward button here, we do see a little bit of bullish liquidity start to poke through as those two come together. Very nice. And then we cross over with a decent candle and with bullish liquidity around, what time was that? 4 in the morning, not too shabby. And then what happens? So then we stay bullish, and so we expect at least movement to like LDPM L7 with that bullish liquidity for as long as it remains bullish. We see we dip a little bearish. We do get up to LDPM L7, but it rejects. We don't cross over. So, okay, and that's the end of the day. I always forget how short these days are in 15-minute chunks. It seems weird to think that there's so few 15-minute chunks in an entire day. Oh, a very aggressive bid walked in. This is live, right? Yes. So, okay. So we do see this bullish liquidity come. We do test LDPM L7 here slightly, reject. We do get some bearish liquidity right as market closes. But now in this after hours, we see this big candle along with an aggressive bid cascade walking in. So for those of you who may not be too familiar with the aggressive bid cascades, unfortunately, these videos are trying to be relatively short, so I'm not going to go into it too deep here, but essentially, it's an aggressive bid walking in. I did some videos not too long ago, earlier in the week, discussing the aggressive bid cascades and the aggressive ask cascades and what they mean, what to look for when they happen. So I recommend going and checking that out, because it definitely looks like we have a aggressive bid walking in the after hours on GME. Pretty cool. So this is still tentatively bullish, right? Like we did have this little bearish stint in the after hours, but again, we have this aggressive bid walking in. We've had this nice, like, pretty persistent bullish liquidity, and so definitely worth keeping an eye out for. And definitely, I'm interested to see what will happen in the pre-market when Monday comes around, and then obviously from there on, right? Time immemorial. But for now, it's an exciting way to end the week. So moving on to NVIDIA, we had this messy liquidity situation yesterday. We had a return to bullish liquidity. So let's go. And it looks like some things happened. So bearish. We get kind of annoyingly chopped. And then bullish. We go to those resistances. LTPM L7, it seems, blocks continued bullish activity. We test support. That support starts giving us bearish liquidity. Support fails. We go down to that next support at LTPM L6. It fails. And now we're sort of in this price recovery, but conditions remain bearish. And so far, spot has been unable to move above that resistance at LTPM L6, which is kind of the likely outcome, given that the liquidity is still remaining. LTBS is still painting these candles red. So unfortunately, as long as those candles are red, the outlook is downside / the resistance, the LTPM L6 resistance is going to be to resistancy, and spot will be rejected. And that looks like that's what's happening. What do we have here? Latest updates. NVIDIA stock has shown high volatility with 19 price swings over 5% in the past year. Why did you waste my time with this? Okay, cool. Well, now we know. 19 times in the past year, greater than 5% moves on NVIDIA. Anyway, with liquidity, we see it's still bearish, failing to cross over the LTPM resistance at L6. And so it still continues to paint a bearish picture, right? So pretty bearish on NVIDIA. I think I'm still kind of following along. There we go. See, now we're testing. There we go. So we have on the daily, we have NVIDIA. We've had this bearish liquidity come through. We're now testing the support at LTPM L5 at 165 with that bearish liquidity. And those who, again, have been following along for the aggressive bid and aggressive ask cascades, this should look at least relatively familiar here at what these LTPMs are doing. So I'll leave the rest of, I'll leave, if you're not too familiar with what that means, I'm going to leave that as an exercise for you, the reader, or the listener in this case. And in any case, this has been the After Hours Market Dive for February, September 5th. And I'm Justin. Thanks for hanging out and coming along. And it looks like some exciting times in the market are headed this way. This aggressive bid cascade on GME is definitely exciting. So, all right, guys. Until next time, I shall see you then. Bye.